Welcome everybody to a meeting of the Economic Development Committee. We're going to discuss ReZone. I'm joined by Councilor Paniagua and Councilor Nave. This meeting was called at the insistence of my colleagues, as someone must have missed the notice that we were having the meeting today. Jake, if you could start off maybe going over like a sketch of what we plan as far as like amendments to the ReZone.
So you want me to just go through what I did last time?
I would just say,
like,
I don't want you to go through every single thing, but I mean, obviously.
I really have, we'll see if others show up, but like, I have nothing new to add. Like, these are real use situations that, and examples that were updated based on actual caseload and experience utilizing a new code for the first time and things that, need to be added. This is outfacing, right? These are things that help serve and develop our city. This isn't something that I'm pushing on. These are things that need to be updated or amended or corrected even for the people that we all serve, whether it's developers, whether it's homeowners, whether it's people that live here, do business here, entertain here. But I mean, I'm happy to go through all the details again. I guess I would ask if is it necessary?
Well, it seems like when I reviewed a lot had to do with like restructuring the sentence.
Yeah,
structure
exactly.
And,
a lot of
to
it
make it
is
easier for people to understand.
In consultation with Corporation Counsel and our land use attorney, a lot of it is kind of restructuring things, moving some things around. Definitions being added, again, kind of in the weeds, sort of details, if you're not doing it every day. But these are things that this staff needs to do proper administration of the code. And it's like any new law or anything new, like you're gonna learn as you go and adjust things or add things to it to make it better. And I think that's exactly what we're still in the process of, is taking a new code that was adopted 2.5 years ago and still kind of molding that and fine-tuning that and shining it up.
I mean, when we first envisioned this, when we worked our way through the first part of ReZone, we foresaw that we would have to amend and be as flexible and fluid as we possibly can as far as this goes.
Yeah.
I find most of the time with any kind of zoning ordinance, it's more or less the interpretation and the implementation of this particular zoning requirement than it is anything else.
Well, sometimes I'll give a real example of what this one of the amendments that we're proposing will do. There's a 2-story minimum requirement for development in certain areas. One being Erie Boulevard, and we have an applicant who wants to redo a single-story building, but by code it says you have to be a 2-story. Well, we're fixing that in this. This is a real project. Somebody wants to spend money to fix up a building here. It would be for it's a Biggie Tire, who I believe they have a footprint down in the southern tier, Binghamton area, but can't do it right now because the code says 2-story minimum. And one of the changes we're making is for development of that you can take a single-story existing building and develop it for use. The land use has to still be correct, but it's things like that that are the bulk of the changes in here, or updates.
So in a situation like that, that's a non-conforming use as far as the new zone goes, but we're interpreting, like, since they do want to, what do we give them, a variance or what?
Well, no, we want to change the code so we can let him go ahead.
Okay,
he's
so
waiting.
he's jammed up now, he hasn't been able to go ahead?
Oh, yeah, he's been, yeah.
So it's just for that one, right?
No, that's just one of the changes, but yeah, I mean, it's things like that. Like, again, this is all outfacing. This isn't me coming up with, all these crazy new policies to add to this because I want to, this is just kind of going through and correcting and editing and updating just nuances of the code so we can better administer it day to day and get people what they need.
So what happens if, like, Like, I understand that one, what you're saying, but what happens if the average person wants to do something different, right? And then they wanted this, it's not set up in zoning for that. Like, are they getting that same opportunity for stuff to be changed? Like, so for instance, that is a business, right?
Well,
Anderson?
I would say the process we're taking is identifying if we're going to make a change, it's citywide, right? Like what is best for the city, not just the individual, like take him out of it. But that was a real example. Like we looked at it and said, yeah, it probably doesn't make sense to have all these single story buildings on Erie Boulevard and say, yeah, to develop them, they all got to be 2-story. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like that's an existing, and it wasn't just Erie Boulevard, but that's just an example. It exists on North State Street too, North Salina. There's, I don't believe that was the intent. At least that's what my interpretation is. I don't think that was the original intent on how the code got adopted like that originally, but that's what ended up going in it that way. And we feel like existing buildings should not have to meet that 2-story requirement, and that we're a built-out city. You should be able to fix up a single-story building and use it, and develop and come in and establish something and run your business out of it. But the way the code's written right now is it says you have to be 2 stories.
See, I commend you for doing that. Couldn't you have, like, offered them a conditional permit, then come to us for that, or not? I mean, like, let them go ahead knowing that we're going to change the zoning. I mean, because if we get into a situation where we're specifically changing the zoning for any entity that, and as far as it being for the benefit of the community at large, I'd be in favor of it. But I mean...
Martha Hertzberg, Corporation Counsel's Office. In answer to your question, Counselor, this, first of all, it's not a zone district change at all. This is just tweaking the language. So as Jake's saying, anybody on Erie Boulevard who occupies or wants to occupy an existing building cannot renovate. It so happened that the code got adopted to say you must make it 2 stories. So we've walked down Erie Boulevard on screen multiple times and said, we're creating disinvestment with this provision because anybody who wants to improve their building, the code says you have to be 2 stories. So we believe that if someone wants to be 2 stories, they should be able to build that, but not be forced to if it's an existing building. So
was that left over from the original code that we changed, or we just didn't change it, or what?
I don't believe it was left over from the original. I think it was...
well, yeah, it was part of the original adoption.
It was in the original adopted, but it's not from the old code.
Oh, right. It was part of the original adoption of ReZone, not in the old 60s code, if that makes sense.
67.
Yeah, so Commissioner Michael Collins, you just reminded me 67. One of the things that was really personally tough for me was everybody talking about how ancient the code was, and it was created the same year I was. So personally, that was hard. The reality is that two things. One is you made the perfect point at the beginning of the meeting. We knew when we adopted it, we were going to keep coming back. Right. It had been over 50 years. And so we're now, Owen had done 99 meetings overall with it. It was never going to be perfect. It was too much for it to be perfect. So things like this, all right, hey, that didn't work out exactly the way we want, so we come back to you. To your other question, couldn't we have done something provisional? Possibly. We do not want to ever appear to a developer or to the council that we are presumptive of your intentions and your actions. And if we had done that and the council had, decides in the end to not adopt what we've proposed, now we've got a developer who's invested money into moving along a project that in the end we would not be able to do something with. And so we never want to come up to you and say, well, we've already given permission for somebody to do it, so I need you to do it now. Just do what we say. That's not good on our part in being a partner with you.
Okay. I don't know if I totally agree with the reasoning on that, but
I understand.
I'm just talking about where we're coming from with it. Yeah, okay.
We have gotten him started with some things unrelated to the second story.
Right.
So site work, demolition. So, but he doesn't have final approval yet to do everything pending this, but he has started other unrelated items that would be unrelated to the second story.
We can't make a conditional approval because that doesn't exist in the code, but
Maybe it should.
Yeah.
I'd have to investigate that legally, but I want to explain one other thing about the genesis of this change and some of the others. When the code was adopted, and in those 8 years preceding, the planners and through the meetings Owen had throughout the community and the council had a vision for what they wanted in certain areas. So for example, there's a new credit union that's on Erie Boulevard, and it's 2 stories, there's lots of grass, and it's a beautiful development. And I think that was the vision, that we would build it up and make it more beautiful, more inviting to investors. And so that 2-story provision went in as kind of the ideal, as the dream for Erie Boulevard. But the reality is that not everybody can afford to or needs to have 2 stories. So this tire guy, he doesn't need 2 stories. The only way he could get approved without changing the provision, and it's not just to benefit him, it's we realized that the vision is great, the idea is great to have these 2-story structures on Erie Boulevard,
Well, yeah.
but
see,
it
that's
doesn't
what
work for everybody.
I'm struggling with, why that was, we went through this for a long time, the zoning. Man, I don't understand why we would want specifically just 2 stories on
So
Erie Boulevard.
I think, like many new laws, I think until they actually go through actual application in a real life situation, you don't learn to say like, oh man, like, yeah, we didn't really think how this would play out in like a real use case scenario with a real application and somebody actually with real money and real plans to develop. And I think it's difficult to kind of forecast that and plan for every scenario as you're drafting a law. I think it is. I think
you're
not
right.
just with zoning. I think with anything, it's hard to get it right out of the gate. And what we're trying to show here is that we want to be agile with this, and I want to leave this in a position when I'm not doing this work anymore where somebody doesn't have to do a whole rewrite of the code, right? Like we plan on having an amendment cycle probably annually, if not more, just to sort of so we can keep evolving based on our needs and the vision of the city.
And so,
Okay, I'm gonna say this real because I'm gonna lose my train of thought. So, really quick, with the packet that we just got yesterday in our meeting, I haven't read through all of it. I've started it, and it's a lot. One of my questions is, right, so with the change in that division through the city, right, have any of those changes, because I haven't read all of it yet, I'm in the process of finishing, is it going to affect any of like the community homeowners, like with any of those changes? Like, how does it affect and play on the community? I know the city has their own agenda, right? But it doesn't always get to the community. So will any of those things that you want to change be a impact of the inside of the community as far as, making any changes? Where you see anybody saying, wow, I didn't want that there, like I say.
Well, the zoning code has to be based off the comp plan, right? And we have a division of planning and sustainability led by our deputy commissioner, Owen Kearney. And so really those two kind of work, they coincide, and the zoning code kind of follows what the comp plan is saying. But if you're talking specifically what's in here, I don't think anything is going to impact or be a huge change on the community in general. This is kind of like cleaning up and editing text, and I mean there are some additions that we've made, right, and some changes, but it's overall it's like cleaning up language and definitions, and but certainly the zoning code, yeah, like that it was an 8-year process, right? Like tons of meetings on it, and we've tried to make even the process for what we're doing open. Like we didn't call it a committee meeting, but the planning commission, we had a work session meeting just like this in these chambers we public advertise. This is our second committee meeting for this.
I say that to say because most people at 12 o'clock, I'm gonna be honest, 1 o'clock, they're at work, right? And the people that really need to hear aren't in these meetings. So let me just
Yeah.
say this. So I'm saying simple as like somebody in a neighborhood might be against a 3-story apartment building in their community, in their neighborhood, right? And we know we have a housing crisis and we got to continue to build. But that might be impact of, someone who the sunlight, their tree was there, right? We see all these type of, they might be little, but they're big to the community. I just want to make sure as we're making these decisions that we're looking at the whole scope and we don't say, okay, yeah, go ahead and do it. And then it comes back to say, we forgot to look at those things. Like we had one of Hogan's constituents, it was a tree. If we would have removed that tree, it would have been detrimental to them in a whole bit different way, right? So I'm just thinking about the little things that comes to us that it's important to think about. Some people might want that, and then some neighborhoods are like, wait, we don't, this not good for the neighborhood, or it doesn't fit in, or, just those things. I know as codes you have to make decisions, but we also have to make sure that we're making right decisions for the community as well.
So to Councilor Caldwell's point, obviously, any situation that would involve any of our constituents and, us as city councilors could ask for a revision of the code regarding that. We could have another meeting, go before the planning commission and everything else like that,
We know
right?
about it.
Or would that be a variance?
We won't know about it.
No.
If we were talking about wholesale, like, design standard changes, yeah, that would be an amendment to the code. And we haven't really touched any of that. Like, we're not allowing more stories or less stories in residential neighborhoods. Like, all that's been, it's the same. Like, we're not, none of that's been
It's labeled
changed.
different, but it's the same.
Yeah,
Labeled from the 67 code.
Right, the regulations are, correct. I think that's a good way to put it. But, yeah, and to your point about the meeting time, like, our meeting with the planning commission was in the evening. Like the work session meeting, and then we had the planning commission meeting after that. That was also in the evening. So, I think getting public participation is a challenge just overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's the, we got a lot going on here, but yeah. I just want to make sure that we are, we're being inconsiderate, and I'm not saying you guys aren't, because I think you do. I think you guys do think, and I know every time I call, you're like, okay, Rashida, tell me what's going on. I just want to make sure that we're not passing something or changing something that later on comes back and say, oh, you already agreed on this, and then, it doesn't fit for the kid. That's all. Just being
Yeah.
transparent.
No, I hear you, and I don't. I mean, I'm kind of just reviewing the highlights here, and I don't think there's anything in here that would fall into that category.
I don't think there's anything affecting residential per se, except for one really important provision, which is we added something, I think it was at your request in the last amendment round, to allow people, it was an area on South Salina where there were people who were having rentals on their second floor, and they weren't able to get bank letters because they were illegal. We legalized those 2-family dwellings, but we had a sunset provision that ended at the end of next year. But we couldn't really telegraph that to the whole community except have it in the code. So we removed that sunset so that in the future, if there's other landowners who need to utilize that provision, they're able to continue using it. And just one other example of the kind of things we did in here, we had trouble, say you have a building and it's on a sloped street, and we didn't have a way to measure, the way the language was, where to measure the stories from. Do you do it from the top? Do you do it from the bottom? Is that a basement? So we revised the whole rule of measurement section. So a lot of these, so that we have a definitive way to measure on a sloped street or in any other circumstance. A lot of the changes are clarifications like that that help the community, the users of this code, understand it better and help us to help the community when they come to us.
Council Rouser,
And so,
Rouser.
yeah, so I'm clear. The Erie Boulevard redevelopment, so there's a max of 2 stories?
No, minimum.
a minimum of 2 stories. And, okay, and so is that, and that's for people who want to, like if you have a single-story building right now and you want to fix it up, you have to go to 2 stories? Or,
Yeah.
but if someone has a single and they don't want to go to 2 stories, that's the issue that you're having?
No,
They can't renovate?
right.
Can't renovate unless they go to 2 stories. That's why we're creating this investment, because someone who wants to invest can't right now.
So is that something that was a part of the rezone prior? Because
Like
there's a-
ancient?
That, we inherited that.
Oh, okay.
I'll say it that way.
Okay.
That's easier to understand, like. And then we had an
that
application
didn't
come in and
include
we're like,
facade.
oh, this doesn't work, like, we need to change this.
I don't understand that. Because so when I see new businesses buy a property on Erie Boulevard, single units, single floor, and they do all kind of facade improvements and interiors, I'm confused.
So this would be for like establishing, like, so this guy's coming to establish a tire
I don't
shop,
want to,
right?
just not just one person. I'm
No,
talking
I know,
about-
but I'm trying to explain like what's triggering it. Like, so it's not just me, I have an existing non-conforming and I'm just like, you know, like doing some cosmetic upgrades. Like, he's coming into a building, it's actually there's like an addition, right, with it? Putting an addition on and totally rehabbing like yeah, it's vacant. So like he's establishing his business. Insert anybody on any building on Erie Boulevard, right? The code says, oh, you want to do this? It's got to be 2 stories.
That's what I'm trying
And
to
that's
see.
the problem.
Since when?
Since we inherited it in July of 23, like I wasn't before it was in the
Oh,
code.
you're talking about okay, I see. He meant when they did it so we can't just do with him or any project like that, we couldn't just do a special permit and just say,
This isn't the first one. So
Oh, it's been multiple.
this is a provision applicable to all development, and I believe it's the MX2 zone district, anywhere in the city. So we've had other people come in, and they had to build a fake second story to get through the provision. And so this guy came in, and we're like, oh my gosh, we have to change this provision, but it takes a long time to get the amendments to you. This is a second cycle. So we met with planning, and while there's a desire to have this 2-story kind of dream, we realize the reality is we have to let people in any district be able to do this. We carved out just Erie Boulevard this time because it's a big change. Because when you look at some other MX2 zoned areas, you might want it to be 2 stories. I think part of James Street, for example, where everything's 2 stories, but there's some single stories. So we only carved out Erie Boulevard because it's one of our major commercial corridors, and we're wanting to bring investment into that. So for this cycle, we only carved out Erie Boulevard. We actually had thought, but we didn't know we couldn't do this. We actually wanted to expand that, but since the council can't do floor amendments, we're doing just the Erie Boulevard, but we would like to change that in the future possibly for all of MX2, so that anybody in MX2 who wants to renovate a single story can do that. You can do facade changes and some exterior cleanup. We don't regulate that in zoning, but as soon as you want to occupy a building, then you have to start getting approvals from our department, and it triggers all of these other requirements.
I want to make a comment. Michael, you said something about 1967, that there was a change.
So the previous code that we amended in 2023 was born in 1967.
And it was coincidence because that's when 81 was going up and all the businesses were on Erie Boulevard were now being torn down. And the administration at the time was now let's do something different. So we tore down existing businesses and we had to do things differently.
Yeah, urban renewal is one of the ugliest parts of our history, right? Yeah, that was, I talked about being born in 67. My grandparents could come most of the way up from Johnson City on 81. It wasn't quite complete up to right into the city. Yeah. So, and we lived with that code for 55 years. In that is too long to go without, and this is, how many times, this is our second time back now for, yeah. So now, in 2 years, we're already back to you twice because we really are trying to make sure that this is a living document that is, as we are, have 2 years of application, and as the fact that we know we've seen a lot of growth. We're in a different position now than we were 2 years ago. We want to make sure we continue to come back to you and say, this is what we see from our property owners, this is what we hear from our developers, and this, so one of the things that this team is great about is working with planning and the Division of Planning and Sustainability. So it's not just the application, but it's also the intention. What do these proposed changes that we're looking at the moment mean for the best that we can predict into the future? And so it's a full team effort to be able to look at it. And so some of the stuff, as we originally looked at it, we then, met with Owen, took a look through it, and was like, oh, all right, there are, we can see some unintended consequences with our first draft on it. So let's adjust it. So we've been through some iterations already before we got to the point of bringing it to you.
Okay. I have two other questions. So one, I have a issue with a part of the, not the new adoption, but it's already existing. And so that's probably some conversations that we should have sooner than later, but it's around the ADUs and the owner-occupant properties. I think that there are somewhat neighbor-to-neighbor real estate owners who have lots that could occupy an ADU, and we're stopping that process because it's only allowed for if you're a homeowner occupant. But there are wonderful community-based landlords who have the ability to put an ADU on a side lot of a property, and that they have as a rental, and we're stopping that process. The reason why we only have 2 ADU applications currently in the city. So that's some conversations that probably need to be had, and legislation can be created around that as far as compliance with permitting and the rental registration and all of that. The other thing is Syracuse University had a lot of complaints about some of the changes, and I know that you said that you were in conversation with them. So where are we with the PDI and the PDD changes that they were concerned about?
All that's been resolved with what's in the final draft that was presented to you.
Okay.
With the exception of we're working on signage with them.
Speaker.
There was, thank you, table 2.17, there are some changes that we negotiated out with SU that we ultimately came up with language, and that is not in this draft because it was too late. So we do plan to have another amendment cycle that starts up. We have a long, long wish list of corrections, as it were, to make to this code to make it operational for the community and for our legislators. So there was one outstanding thing. The language is completely approved by everybody and everybody who doesn't vote on it. And it'll come to you in the next cycle. But
Everything else was...
Everything else is,
Yeah.
Everything else is done. And actually, we're not changing anything on that table right now. Both SU and the city wanted to make some changes, but they didn't make it in this round, so they'll be coming up soon.
In Lemoyne, we haven't heard anything from Lemoyne with concerns about what they were, okay,
They've never reached out to us on anything.
okay. All right. I think
You have
that's
something,
it for
Counselor?
me.
Just a quick question. It's about the variances. So those are done on a one-by-one case, right now? But if you see a variance that keeps coming up It doesn't have to be in the same neighborhood. Business, I'm talking about businesses, not residential. Would that qualify as maybe a change we would want to adopt of any kind?
We
You know what I'm
haven't
trying to
ha-
say?
I know exactly what you're trying to say. You're trying to say if there were a pattern where
Right.
the same thing kept getting repeated as a request for a variance, would we consider a code change? And the short answer is absolutely yes, but we haven't had that come up. We haven't
Okay.
had really any two variance requests requesting the same thing.
So once we approve a variance, then, then
It's a mini rezone, or a mini code amendment. So you get a variance, a use variance. There's two types, area and use, essentially. You get a use variance to do something on a piece of land that otherwise isn't allowed. It runs with the land and it stays with that forever. So it's kind of its own little mini code amendment. That's how they operate under the law.
I have a statement, I guess, about that specifically. So when I did watch the CPC meetings concerning this rezone, it was stated that if someone wanted to apply for a variance, and I don't know which body, but it wasn't the Board of Zoning Appeals, didn't feel it was something that should happen, that it wouldn't even go further than that. So it wouldn't even get to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And I have a problem with that, because that's why we have the Board of Zoning Appeals, so they can make that decision. And so for it to be stopped before it could get there, that doesn't seem like we should be doing that.
There are certain things that are jurisdictional for the boards. So I think I know possibly one of the items you're referring to. There was someone who wanted to amend a PDD, and that PDD cannot be amended. It wasn't a matter of whether it could get to the board. It's just there are some things that just can't be done. So otherwise.
I have no specific
Yeah.
anything. It was just a
Otherwise,
statement that was made
It's the
at the.
same, if it's something that the Board of Zoning Appeals doesn't have authority to act on, then we wouldn't, sometimes we process the amendments, but we try to discourage people from wasting their own time and money to go through that process if we know that the board can't do it. But if they're really insistent, we let them go. But once so there's two things that can happen, Counselor. If you can't get to the board because it's a jurisdictional issue for that board, or you don't qualify, then you can file an Article 78 because you're aggrieved by a decision of Jake, for example. Or if you are unsuccessful at the Board of Zoning Appeals, you can also file an Article 78.
But are they told that they can file an Article 78? Or do you just assume that they know that?
It says it in the code, and we can't give people, I suppose the staff sometimes says it, but they don't have the legal expertise. And so the code is explicit that if you're aggrieved by a decision, the state law is specific and the code is specific that if you're aggrieved by a decision of an officer of the city, then you can file for the Article 78.
But why can't we tell them?
Well, I can't give legal advice to somebody, and that's essentially
It's
what
legal
that is.
advice, though.
And so we don't really have the staff get into that too, because then they start asking questions, and the staff shouldn't be trying to answer that.
So, and just Counselor Jones-Rouser's question, is it, who in the administration would check these boards to make sure that there are actually terms on those boards? Until recently, the BZA had 2 members that were on there for 30 years.
So
We
we,
do.
we monitor all of that. We know
Well,
their
now
terms.
you do, maybe. I brought it up too.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
we-
that is, you go before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they're the final arbiter of something, and you got 2 folks that were there until recently, that were there for 30 years. There should be some new blood in some of these boards.
Well, there is and was.
was now.
But
We just wanna make sure we should guard against that.
We monitor the required training hours. We have everything documented, what their terms are. We're doing the elections the way the charter says we have to. Like we're on top of it.
Okay. There was one thing I wanted to ask about. I let it go last time. I think I asked about is the interpretation of like rental as commercial in some aspects. You mentioned that. Rental property being, like, and I don't think it's not incorporated exactly in the zoning,
So
at
the-
least the revision.
You mean
Unless I'm wrong.
in relation to how we're not using definition of family to regulate who can live in a structure?
Yes.
That?
Yes.
Do you want me to explain that again?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so
Not a little bit.
one of the, I believe it was one of the conditions of adopting it in July was that we eliminate and delete and stop using the term family and how that's defined, meaning no more than 5 unrelated adults ages 18 or older. So what we did, and still to this day, right at this very moment, I think we're the only municipality that I'm aware of that is regulating how a structure is regulating the density and intensity of use in conjunction with property maintenance and fire codes of New York State in lieu of trying to track blood relations and people and ages of people living with one another. So ResCom is a scheme that does that in residential zone districts. And it, again, is a scheme for intensity and density of use. So what it does is it treats rental properties as businesses in that it's a commercial enterprise. But the people living there, it's no different than a homeowner. There's no changes in physical living conditions or what they're able to do or not do. Like none of that changes.
I think we were all comfortable. In fact, we insisted upon that change, but I'm not sure the word commercial is something I'm comfortable with to describe that at all.
Well,
Is that in the new changes?
it's already adopted.
Or
So
commercial? No, we
The
didn't adopt that.
residential, so this is all kind of hyper-technical zoning categories and classifications. So we only have 5 classifications in the code: industrial, maybe 6, open space, industrial, commercial, mixed use, and residential. Did I say commercial? So you got to kind of fit into one of those. So what we did, so residential zone districts, well, it's not the zone districts, the residential classifications, there's 2 types. There's residential and residential commercial. Under residential, there's only single-family homes and attached single-family, 2-family homes. And is there anything else under residential? I think group living, which is like dormitories and stuff like that. Boarding houses, dormitories. Eventually, when we can get to it, tiny home villages, congregate living facilities are all under residential. The residential commercial designation was a way to we had to come up with a way to get rid of that definition of family. And so we happen to have a category of commercial. Apartment buildings are residential commercial. A home that's renter occupied, such as the one I live in, is residential commercial. If you own a home and you rent out more than 3 rooms, you become residential commercial. If you're renting out 2 of your rooms, you're still just straight up residential. So I'm not sure.
So the room part is also changes in the commercial versus residential situation. So would if I'm renting out rooms in my house and now it's considered commercial, am I getting, which C of what am I getting?
Which what? I'm sorry.
C of O, C of A, C of U?
Oh,
So,
Because it's owner occupied, so I wouldn't be getting any of that.
yeah, it's not about, so if it's owner occupied, you would still be exempt from rental registry if you're a single family or 2-family. This is about land use approval, and if you want to make changes in the intensity of use and density, then certain land use rules would be applied. A lot of this has to do with overcrowding and adding of illegal bedrooms in basements or sunrooms or large closets, or taking one bedroom and putting a wall in illegally to create two bedrooms, or in the attic. So it also deals with illegal conversions of space not designed or approved to be sleeping rooms or bedrooms. And if you do want to do a conversion like that and you fall into a ResCom category, you have to offset the increase of density and intensity by having certain common area based on the state property maintenance code, but also an additional off-street parking space, because we see that is an issue citywide in certain neighborhoods.
And that only happens when you're converting non-bedrooms to
Right.
bedroom space. So the issue really for those came about because there's a lot of applications that come and they want to make the dining room a bedroom, and they want to make the living room a bedroom, and they want to make the sunroom a bedroom, and then all of a sudden there's no common area.
So the
you've got-
commercial part of a homeowner occupant rooming house, I'm just gonna call it rooming, don't ignore me, comes with the conversion of, like the person on the east side who wanted to add 8 bedrooms to a 3-bedroom house, per se.
I'll just backtrack and then let Jake take over again. It's called commercial because you're monetizing, just like a multifamily, an apartment building has monetized those living spaces. Somebody's making rent or income off of it. That was the terminology and the thought process the Corporation Council wanted to use, and in fact, it was her coined the residential commercial status.
her?
Excuse me?
Who is her?
Sue, the Corporation Council. So,
Okay, so just so I'm clear.
and just, we ran that by the state, actually, to talk to them about using that moniker, or that designation, this whole scheme. And they said that that was the only way to make it constitutional.
Okay, so
that's-
if I have a single-family home or a 2-bedroom home, I'm considered residential. If I have a 3 or more, I'm commercial. If I have a single-family home that I'm renting out any room, I'm commercial.
No, after you start renting out 3 rooms, you become commercial.
Oh, after 3,
So
okay.
you live there, and you've got 2 bedrooms, and you want to make a little extra, you rent them out, you're still residential.
Okay,
Once you start renting out 3 or more, you become residential commercial. We had to draw a
Okay.
line, and that's where we thought that there could be overcrowding issues, because remember, it's not just the number of rooms that you're renting, but then there's become parking implications, and frankly, garbage pickup implications, and other implications, the more that gets rented out, and the density.
Other communities call these mini dorms, or they're illegal rooming houses. I'll try to lay it out this way because I think it's a good way to explain it and what Mayra was hitting on. Mayra rents a single-family home. I own a single-family home. If I started renting out my home tomorrow, the structure I own would go from residential to ResCom. The person living there or myself is not impacted at all from that unless I try to come and add a bedroom in a space that's not approved to be a bedroom, meaning I want to take my family room and change it into a bedroom because I'm renting it now and I want to monetize that because I know I can get an extra $1,000 a month for that additional bedroom. It's only triggered then. It doesn't change anything for the
But
people
see, that's
living.
where I think you keep on losing me at, because you're saying using rooms that aren't currently rooms. But if I have a 5-bedroom house,
You're good.
but you just said that if we use more than 3,
No. What she said is if you rent more
Different
than
things.
3 bedrooms, what we're saying is if you convert a space that's not a bedroom to a bedroom and you're renting it, there are certain offsets you need to make in that increase of intensity of use and density of use to account for common area and parking. It's only, yeah, go ahead.
I see where we're hanging you up.
Yeah.
So there's 2 tracks, okay? There is a house that you live in, and you want to rent out bedrooms, and it's a 5-bedroom. So you rent out at first 2 of them. It's still just a single-family home, you're living there, you got a little extra income. Now, you want to rent out all 5.
Yeah. Well, 4, because I'm
Okay,
in one
4.
of them.
So once you rent out 3 of them, you become commercial. That's a different.
But it doesn't change
that's
anything. You don't-
different- It's another category under ResCom, okay? There's 5, I think 5 categories. There's multifamily, there's residential owner occupied, there's,
You're just going to have to raise the rent on the other 3 rooms
Yeah,
to make it
there you
up, that's all.
But that's what I don't understand.
I just want to be
suffice
clear.
to say, Counselor, and I can sit with you if you want, it's another category of ResCom, what we're talking about, where you're converting non-bedroom spaces. That's a type of ResCom. And then there's another type of ResCom where you're renting more than 3 bedrooms. So
Okay.
we're talking about 2 different animals, which is,
Okay.
that's the confusion.
Is this only for your language? Like, what difference does it make from residential to ResCom?
Nothing. Yeah, it's only for land use
So
only.
you guys know what's sort of like in there?
It's just to prevent people from adding illegal bedrooms, really, and adding to that. Like, it doesn't impact anything. If you're not changing your structure, it doesn't matter if you're renting, owning, renting out 3 and living there. None of that. Those 3
I
examples,
still-
nothing would change other than what category you fall in. The
I
only
still
thing that
think
changes.
even the rental part, if I own a 5-bedroom and I
Yeah.
do rent, I still think that does change the parking situation. That might bring more cars to the neighborhood. So I understand all
Yeah.
of that, but I just want to be clear so people understand. Because if I'm confused, then somebody else gonna be confused.
Right.
So, okay.
I just want to remember, I just want to remind the counselors, we have another meeting over there at the other building.
I know,
At
I was
3
just
o'clock,
saying.
so
Yeah,
can we just
yeah.
wrap this up maybe? And you got any more questions, Counselor
I
Caldwell?
mean, I will, but not online. I'll do it later. I
Counselor
gotta.
Jones
put it all
Rouser,
in.
you're all set?
I'm fine,
You're
yeah.
okay? So
can talk off.
I appreciate, Jake, I appreciate you and your crew being here, but we have to go over the housing strategies.
Yeah, just one last thing quickly. I have to go out of town for a wedding on the holiday. I unfortunately will not be
No, we
here
can't say
Tuesday. So if you can, Jitong, Mayra, Michael, they'll all be here. But if there's something needed, if you have a question, please reach out. I'll answer by email, by text, talk to somebody, or they'll be here Tuesday.
No
Well, I
wedding,
already
no
do,
trips,
so,
no vacations.
you know,
Not allowed.
But thank you.
We just don't, okay, counsel, listen, I'll ask for a meeting to be adjourned. Adjourned.
Second.
Okay.
First, second.
All in favor?
Aye. Yeah.
Jake, I'll talk to Ryan.